in Iceland, in a small market with, basically even our big newspapers are dwarfs compared to any media in the U.S.
Yeah, it's not the New York Times.
No, it's not going to happen.
And even that has had to totally pivot to online.
Oh, absolutely. New York Times, Wall Street Journal, these Guardian in the UK, they all had to figure out the way to, and they were lost for a while, and then they decided that pay per piece, per article or something would be a safe way to make something or pull something back. And
I find that a really interesting choice.
Hoping that people will be so invested in the idea of reading quality stuff. And the interesting thing there is we all believe that we are really interested in reading quality stuff.
We're not.
But we don't take the time to do it.
No, we read a headline and move on.
Oh, it's sort of...
And that's why the headlines are so... I mean, you wouldn't believe now, like, the more I'm starting to read, more articles on things I'm interested in, more political stuff, more world news, more things like that, and trying to get a varied idea of what's going on instead of just picking one source. So I have some idea of both sides of this argument, right, and figure out where I land. How many articles I notice are written by a computer? At the end of it, it just says produced by AI and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, it's just a headline.
They even signed it that way?
They seriously will say it at the bottom that this article was produced by...
Oh, my God. Automatic translation from something else? Or?
Yeah, and I mean, it's written like an article. And, I kind of have to, look at it this way. Like, we're so new as a species with the amount of ability we have to communicate globally now and instantly. And because as consumers have decided that fast news is more important than accurate news, this is where we've landed. And most people believe the first one they read. Mm-hmm. And there's no truth to that. No. There's no truth to it. Whereas, oh man, the first time I remember that, I remember thinking how behind print was I think when Michael Jackson died. And I don't know what year that was or how old I was, but I distinctly remember hearing the news Michael Jackson had passed, and it must have happened on a weekend or Friday afternoon, something like that.
Okay. And
then Monday morning, I remember seeing a newspaper about Michael Jackson's death, and I just remember thinking fuck, are they still talking about that? And I'm like, oh, they haven't had a chance yet to talk about it.
This is the first publication.
This is the first time they've gotten a chance, and this news is forever old. And I realized how quickly Twitter had changed everything. Mm-hmm. And this will be a technology that we're gonna have to figure out. And I really do think a lot of the issues that we run into are growing pains of the pendulum swing. We went from a journalistic thing that was, I don't know if I want to say has more integrity or any of that, but we went from a journalistic style that had time for fact checking and had time for interviews.
And checking both sides,
Right.
Instead of just taking one side of the story and printing it.
And as a society, because we've told, and look, I'm one who takes accountability and responsibility for everything, including if I'm not what I believe is part of the problem, but if people are, that's a me. Mm-hmm. And we decide fast is more important than accurate, and then we tell them that, so that's what they give us. That's our fault. If we quit reading bullshit and quit taking bullshit as true, they'll go back the other way. They'll follow where the money goes, to which articles are getting read more.
Absolutely, of course.
But it doesn't seem that's the direction.
They'll almost know before it happens, but it's still... while working in media, we tried this numerous times to write these phenomenally high quality, articles about serious stuff, sometimes about day-to-day life. Those articles actually were more commonly read than the really important ones.
Well, people relate.
But wherever Justin Bieber was always number one. Britney Spears' knickers was number one. It's just all the pink stuff, they call that EC or yellow. It's just, it was always number one.
I do find it interesting that's pretty much globally is how it changed. And it wasn't that even,
Absolutely.
I guess, I kind of figure with, the bit of segregation from the rest of the planet of being on an island that maybe world news doesn't seem as pertinent here. You feel insulated from it?
No, we're actually kind of addicted to it. It's growing up on a frigid, isolated island in the middle of nowhere makes you very curious about the outside world. But at the same time, the same evolution is happening here as you described in the U.S., that we're still looking on what's happening in the outside world. But it's becoming more, how can I put it? The whole media world is becoming like a new echo chamber. You're not hearing the whole story. You're sort of just hearing the shout outs, sort of, this is happening, and you click on something to see what's happening, and it doesn't tell you what's actually happening.
Doesn't give you any information.
It just says this is happening, and so even if you wanted to really go deep, there are rare opportunities to actually do that. And as consumers, as a general consumers, we're not really looking for it, which is why it's not out there.
And which is another spot that we pass responsibility off to the media, which that is not their job.
No, they're just following where the money is.
Yeah, they're selling advertising. I try to explain that to people with TV shows or any of this, and like the popularity in the U.S. of the NFL. You just use sporting things like that. If they did a study and found out more people would tune in to a blank screen that had a noise of a baby crying at full volume, that's what would be on every that's what they would give us.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it sells more. Like, there's not an artistic integrity to, like, we're going to showcase this sport.
No.
Like, that's not what it is. And I don't know why we think it was.
There are a couple of, media versions or, companies or pages out there that are really going for that high quality stuff. And generally they have all accepted, according to my knowledge at least, they've all accepted that they will just stay small.
Yeah, because you can't.
They have a passion for something, which is why they're doing it, but it's, it's never going to be the big media.
Yeah, it makes me sad that that's what we're choosing. That we're choosing the other side. We're choosing to be pacified with information instead of get any honest information about it.
I'm tempted to be, to believe that's the case, but my optimistic side likes to believe that things are changing slowly.